What's up, guys? Go back to our video. It was Spider-Man No Way Home out right now in theaters. To me, I thought this movie was like amazing and it was so good, and especially for Tom Holland's Spider-Man and being in this movie. And with this movie, it's kind of a little emotional. That there was some scenes that were like emotional, and the ending was sort of emotional as well. Including like, there was like cheering, fan service when it was really necessary. And with this being like the biggest movie of all time, I mean, I really though and enjoyed it. Like, and I enjoyed seeing all the villains in this movie as well, and the story perfectly sums up Spider-Man's journey in the MCU for the last 4 years in the MCU. So in this video, this will be my my full official review for Spider-Man No Way Home. But if you have not seen the movie, there are gonna be like a major spoilers in this movie. Especially this is the biggest movie of all time. There are gonna be some major spoilers in this movie. So if you have not seen the film, you better click away now and come back to this video after you've seen the movie. But if you're still here and you don't care, let's get into it. And so I really liked how this movie really started off. It really started off with like the Sony logo and the Marvel logo, and then went straight to the point to when Mysterio revealed Peter's identity as Spider-Man to the entire world, and it didn't finish the what the F sentence. And then with all the people, like the citizens of New York, reacting to Peter Parker's reveal as Spider-Man, they start like asking questions, especially to MJ if he's like she's Spider-Man's girlfriend. And then like Peter or Spider-Man tries to get MJ away from the crowd, and they swing away from the crowd, and then this guy try like swing on to Spider-Man, and then they swing out all around New York to like get away from the crowd. And then we see Rogers the musical, which we've already seen in the Hawkeye series, and then they swing on top of the bridge, and then Ned and Peter are FaceTime each other saying "do" like many times, and then with this, they're surrounded by law enforcement, and they're surrounded by cops and helicopters, and then they try to get away from like the cops and the FBI, and they swing and they go into a subway tunnel, and they almost get hit by a subway train. And now with this, we see like a Flash Thompson in this movie, and he has a blonde hair, and we never seen that before in any of the Spider-Man movies. And then we see him back in Peter's apartment with Aunt May and Happy looking like they were together. And then they see Peter and MJ in his room and in his underwear, which was kind of funny. And that's when MJ was introduced to Aunt May, Peter's aunt. And then after that, they go and watch the news about the Daily Bugle, because everyone knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Peter tries to like look close all the windows, and then like it's like they see that and then Peter sees their apartment on the news, and then they see that they're surrounded by helicopters and like a mob surrounding their apartment, and now that everybody knows. And then next, while they're being interrogated, when Peter was being interrogated, he was trying to tell all of the cops or law enforcement that he did not kill him, a Mysterio, that the drones did. And then the guy responded with the drones that are yours. And then like Peter, we see the same exact shirt that they wore in the opening scene in Spider-Man Homecoming. And then with these guys that they're from is the Department of Damage Control, which is kind of like a joint venture with Stargate Industries. And so with this, Peter like did not go to jail or to court or anything, but he was still being interrogated. And then like May and MJ and Ned were also being interrogated as well. But with Ned, he like kind of like was being interrogated differently, because he explains to a police officer of the events that happened in Spider-Man Homecoming, how he was helping Spider-Man out with like he had his suit and stopped a vulture, and the guy thinks that he's like associated though with Spider-Man. And then, as Peter, Aunt May, and Happy are sitting at the kitchen table, we get a cameo from the one and only Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock from the Netflix series Daredevil. And with Matt Murdock being in No Way Home in the MCU, we already introduced to Daredevil characters before, because in the last episode of Hawkeye, we were also like, introduced to Vincent D'Onofrio's like Kingpin as well, and to set up major things for the Netflix, Marvel, and Netflix characters coming into the MCU. Now we got Kingpin and Hawkeye, and now we have Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home, but like he wasn't in there for like a long time, just like a short cameo. He didn't have like a lot of scenes. And now with things getting a lot much worse for Peter as he's going into school, and now with his teachers and now asking questions, and now everyone in school knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and they start recording him on our phones, and it's saying, oh, Peter Parker is Spider-Man, he's a murderer. And then next week we find Peter and MJ on the roof discussing college, and then they almost kiss. And then with Ned being now discussing about college and MIT, we get an exact reference to in Andrew Garfield's universe from Peter as well, to saying that they have crime, and Boston he'd be like a Spider-Man there, and then they make a pact, and then decide to get into college. But that makes it a lot much worse when we find him back at the coffee shop with Peter, Ned, and MJ opening up their letters from MIT, finding out that they did not get in because they're friends with Spider-Man, and they're associated with Spider-Man, and they don't want the Spider-Man minions at MIT. And with Peter figuring out how to fix all this, he looks at the Halloween decorations that looks like Doctor Strange, and then he goes to Doctor Strange and the Sanctum Sanctorum to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and then we see Wong there, and then with the Peter asking Doctor Strange to perform the spell, and with the Wong there with Doctor Strange, he says no to the spell because with Peter Parker he's doing something very dumb, Peter should have handled it differently. But with Doctor Strange accepting the spell, when he looked at Wong, he said, and Wong said, don't cast that spell, it's too dangerous. Then they go and perform the spell, but things get worse from here when Doctor Strange starts to perform the spell to wipe everyone's minds to make sure that they forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But then Peter starts to messes up the spell to make sure that everyone forgets that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but except his friends and family, including for Ned, MJ, and Aunt May. And then things go wrong. Peter messes up the spell, and the spell goes horribly wrong, and they mess it up, and they break reality, and messing with the multiverse. And then we get to the bridge sequence, in which Peter is in a suit just to impress the MIT administrator who's going to the airport, who's also being played by Paul Newsome. And then he's talking to her to let him, Ned, and MJ back at MIT to get them a second chance, even though that they're friends with Spider-Man. He wants to give them another chance. And now with this and now after this, before that, he senses his spidey senses tingling. And then he looks at one running, and then he gets on top of the car, and then we see Alfred Molina's Doc Ock on the bridge. And now with this, I feel like they've been advertising the bridge sequence the most of the marketing of this movie was all based on the bridge sequence between Spider-Man and Doc Ock, and then we see that the two of them fight on the bridge, and then Doc Ock starts asking questions and saying to Peter he says, you're not Peter Parker, and this is because he doesn't recognize our Peter Parker in the MCU, Tom Holland's Peter Parker, but because he only knows Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in his universe. And then we see the Green Goblin on the bridge with his pumpkin bomb, and Green Goblin himself. And then we find Peter seeing all of the villains locked up in the cell, in which Doctor Strange said they started getting visitors from every universe, because with all these villains, they were brought in from every universe, because Peter messed up the spell and brought all these villains in from these other universes as well. But with Doctor Strange, he tells Peter that they need to send him back. But with Peter, he's preventing Doctor Strange from doing that, and so he got the cube. And then we get the fight between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, and with Doctor Strange, he punches Peter into his astral form, and then we get this awesome sequence of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange on the train as they're in the mirror dimension, which was really cool to see. And also with the Spider-Man having being chased by the cloak of levitation, this is the exact same thing that we saw in episode 5 with the Spider-Man wearing the cloak of levitation. And now with the Peter bringing all the villains back, he brings them back to Happy's apartment. Eventually, Aunt May and Peter move into that. That Peter's identity was revealed. They also move into Happy's apartment, and with this, he brings all those villains into his apartment, and that's what made Happy call Peter and asking Peter who are those guys entering his apartment, and now he upgrades them to a nanotech suits, and all of a sudden Norman turns suddenly evil. And the next we see is Peter's like spidey senses, tingling as he spots something probably at the feast center. And then with the Green Goblin like attacking the feast center, he attacks Peter. Then he throws a pumpkin bomb in the air, like killing Aunt May. And this is the exact reference to Tobey Maguire's universe when Green Goblin was trying to like attack like Tobey Maguire's Aunt May in his universe. And I felt so emotional seeing Aunt May die in the scene. It was happy. He sees Aunt May dead, and now the police now are arresting him. And then we get to the parts where Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come into this movie, and then we find Ned and MJ in that apartment with Ned's grandma, wishing I could see Peter Parker. And then with this thing, Ned opens up the portal to another Spider-Man. And with this, he jumps out, and then with Ned's grandma, the thing that he's someone, an intruder, and throws a pill at him, then he's unmasked, and then it's Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. And now like with this, like, he's showing what they can do, and then he uses the same ring again to bring open another portal, and then we see the one and only Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And honestly, my theater was like going nuts and clapping fan service while seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield appear in the scene of the movie, which like so totally like exciting to see them in this movie. That's what I totally liked out of this whole movie as well. Then we find MJ find Peter like on the roof, and then this is a part when Tom Holland's Peter meets Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man for the very first time, and with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and the cousin family, and with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and mentioning Gwen and how he couldn't save her in his universe, a reference to the Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well, and they're discussing loss, and especially for Uncle Ben as well. And like I'm really that it's a point that we didn't get the great power comes great responsibility line, especially from Tobey Maguire, but we got it from Aunt May. And then we get to the final battle where it takes place on the Statue of Liberty, which is like the new improved Statue of Liberty with the Captain America shield. And then we find the three Peter Parkers making an antidote to make these to inject the villains, making them good again, and sending them back to their universe home. And now with this, we see the three Spider-Man, the three Peter Parkers like talking with each other. And honestly, I really loved on the chemistry and the comedy in this movie. It was really fun to see all like three Spider-Man, all the three Parkers like interacting with one another. It was like, really amazing to see. And then we got to the final battle, which we see all of the villains are now according to some leaks and stuff over the past like couple months, which leaks that were true, and it was true that Tobey and Andrew were edited out and cut out of the marketing maybe because they were staying in for the actual movie itself. And then they discuss a plan, and then we hear an Avengers name drop from Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and then we hear like Tobey Maguire like say like Avengers for the very first time, and he's so curious what is it, and Andrew Garfield saying like, oh, like are you part of a band? And now with this, like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man don't know who the Avengers are because they don't exist in their universe, only in Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe. And then in the final battle, we see all three Spider-Man swinging into battle and fighting all the villains and getting them the antidote to make them be good again. And then we see the Statue of Liberty like crashing and like being destroyed. And then we see MJ falling to her death, and with Tom Holland's Spider-Man trying to rescue MJ. He's attacked by the Green Goblin, but with MJ, like she was saved by Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, at which Andrew Garfield Spider-Man got his reduction, but Isaiah says his name as MJ, and since Andrew Garfield Spider-Man couldn't save Gwen Stacy in his universe, so I'm really glad that Andrew Garfield got his reduction for saving Tom Holland's Peter's and MJ and Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe. And then we get to the ending where Peter says to Doctor Strange to fully perform the spell to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and with all these multiversal threats coming in, and with Doctor Strange saying that they're starting to come through, and I can't stop them. I think this is the exact same thing that we also saw in What If as well, and with Doctor Strange fully performed the spell, and now that everyone forgets Peter Parker is Spider-Man, including for his friends as well. He says one last goodbye to his friends before the spell is fully performed. which was very emotional inside, to me. And then the spell is fully performed, and then they say bye to them. And now with this ending with the Peter like going to reintroduce himself to MJ at the coffee shop, which is like in the beginning of the movie as well. This is set like in the Christmas time, which Hawkeye is also set around the Christmas time as well. So Spider-Man No Way Home and the Hawkeye series are both set in different times. But we see Peter at the coffee shop with Ned and MJ, with Peter introducing himself to MJ. And when I say he doesn't know who Peter Parker is, and now with MJ giving him his coffee, and with Peter saying one last go at MJ, and then we see Peter Parker on his own, mature and responsible, and he is like in college now, and then we see in his dorm, and the Lego figure that like Ned showed him from Spider-Man Homecoming, and then we got this one last final scene with Peter in his traditional MCU red and black Spider-Man suit, swinging all down New York. And now this is like he's swinging around the Rockefeller Center, which we've already seen in Hawkeye and the trailer footage. Maybe this is happening in the Hawkeye finale as well. But we see Spider-Man taking his one last swings around New York City, and then the movie ends from there. And now we get to the two post-credit scenes, in which the first one was featuring Eddie Brock and Venom, and Eddie was wearing the same outfit he wore in the Venom 2 post-credit scene. And spoilers, if you haven't seen the Venom 2 post-credit scene, like Eddie Brock Venom was transported into the MCU when Venom was trying to tell him the history of the symbiotes. And then they're transported into the MCU, and see like Tom Holland's Spider-Man on the news, and with Eddie Brock and Adam in the first post-credit scene, he leaves a part of the symbiote behind, which is like a tease for like the black and the black suit Spider-Man with Tom Holland's with the Peter Parker's eventually getting the black Spider-Man suit. In probably like the Venom versus Spider-Man movie, which sets up so much. And now within the second post-credit scene, we got a teaser trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and it features Doctor Strange, Wong, and America Chavez, who's going to be played by Sophie Gomez. And now we see this one part where Doctor Strange is visiting Wanda, and he mentioned like the events that happened in Westview, and with Wanda saying like she made mistakes and people were hurt. And with Doctor Strange mentioning the events that happened in Westview, and spoilers if you haven't seen WandaVision, we saw Wanda dealing with a fake reality and living life in a fake reality, especially with Vision and with her family and her kids, the twin boys Tommy and Billy. And now Doctor Strange explained to Wanda what she knows about the multiverse, and we see the multiverse of Madness, and we see Gargandos throwing a bus at Doctor Strange and America Chavez. And now we see evil Doctor Strange, and now with this is referring back to What If episode 4, when we saw Doctor Strange become evil, and now I think What If is canon to the MCU, because now we see evil Doctor Strange in this little teaser for Multiverse of Madness, and then we see good Doctor Strange, and it ends from there, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for Multiverse of Madness, especially for No Way Home that ties directly into Multiverse of Madness. And yeah, with Spider-Man No Way Home, I thought it was amazing. It was so good. And plus, it was like a celebration of 20 years of live-action Spider-Man movies. And with Peter going through emotion and suffering through a loss, especially with Aunt May. And now we see Peter suffering through emotion, especially with his friends as well. And we also see Peter Parker, Peter now in college. He's mature and responsible, and dealing with life. And now that his friends don't know who he is anymore, and now he's just spending a normal life as Spider-Man, and we definitely got to see him swing one last time in that scene in a Rockefeller Center, swinging through New York and snow. And now with this, I can't to see what else they have in store for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because he is getting another trilogy, the College trilogy. Hopefully, we'll get introduced to Miles Morales in that trilogy. And now with I can't to see what else I have in store for that new trilogy as well, especially for Tom Holland's Spider-Man as well. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed No Way Home. I thought it was amazing, and yeah, it's been a heck of a journey to get to Spider-Man and No Way Home, and now to be talking about it with all you guys. So yeah, I'm very excited for what they have in store next in the future, especially for Tom Holland's Spider-Man as well. So that's gonna be it for this video. Let me thoughts comments down below, and what you thought of Spider-Man No Way Home. Give me a rating between 1 out of 10. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell for future videos. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter for live updates. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.